Today we're talking about how to properly subvert expectations. My name's Jesse Fernandez, and here we have with us BT, or Tyler Henderson.
Hey, how we doing?
Part of talking about subverting expectations means we kind of have to talk about the endings of some of these movies. We're going to be spoiling Bioshock, Now You See Me, Prometheus, and Seven. A lot of those movies are really old. If you haven't watched them already, it's kind of on you at this point. What is your relationship with subverting expectations? Do you like when narratives do that?
Yes, this is a very exciting topic for me. I think a lot of people love twists though, right? I think I love it though because you ask questions at the end of the day when you finished watching or writing something or reading something, and you ask, oh wow, how did they pull that off? Why do I like it? When we subvert something, technically it just means to undermine or disrupt. How does that even work? Because you're disrupting an expectation, and that shouldn't set well with people. But oftentimes we find that twists and these subversions, they work really well. They can also be bad, of course, if you do it poorly, but when done well, it is very effective. It's basically like a scale where on one side, you want this familiarity to where you can grab onto the story. It's something that you can understand or you know or relate to. And then on the other side of the scale, there's this unknown or the surprise factor. If done properly, then you get a little bit of both. You can really just get lost into the story and then you're wowed.
Famously, Brandon Sanderson has a way of thinking about twists. He describes endings and expectations in a 3-set metaphor. If you are going to give a Christmas present to your kid and you promise them that you're going to get them a toy car, a classic twist is you say you're going to give them a toy car, and then you spend the rest of the year telling them how cool toy planes are, and at the end you surprise them and give them a toy plane. That's like the classic twist where you have proper foreshadowing, and then by the end they're surprised and they're like, wow, this isn't what you promised, but this is even cooler. That's the first metaphor. The second one is you tell your kid you're going to give them a toy car, they wait until Christmas, and then you give them a toy car. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. And then the third, promising your kid you're going to give them a toy car, they wait until Christmas, and at the end you give them a real car. And this is the idea of the expansion twist, which people don't think of as a twist, but it is. Two good examples are Lord of the Rings, where Frodo begins the journey thinking that he's just going to deliver the ring. And then by the end, he's like saving the universe by throwing the ring into the fires of Mount Doom. Another one is Star Wars, with Luke thinking he's just going to deliver the plans. And then by the end, he's blowing up the Death Star. That's an expansion of like, no, you're not only going to be a small part of this, you're going to be the main character. I think that's an interesting way and system of thinking of twists. I think it is a little restrictive, and there are things that don't necessarily fall cleanly within that, but it does kind of start the conversation of like, okay, what kind of story do I want to have? Do you have any good examples on your end of twists that you think did it really well, or even things that did really poorly?
One of my favorites is Seven. I love it because the villain, he just goes by John Doe. Throughout the film, it plays as like a typical investigative, let's catch this killer type film. It's very dark and gritty. But when you're thinking of as a narrative, you're watching these two investigators, and basically the expectation is set as like, I've seen other films like this. They will be successful at the end of the day. Happy ending, clean cut, we're done. But the film does not do that. It actually completely subverts, and the villain wins at the end. That's where it really hit the scale for me, where there's familiarity because I've seen things like it. But then there's this level of unknown because John Doe is very intimidating. He's very good at what he does, and he makes a lot of promises that you think are empty because that's what a killer would just get in your head. But it turns out he wasn't kidding. Now, in terms of the bad ones, one that comes to mind is Prometheus. I really do love the film. I just feel that the setup with the engineers, it's not as crisp as I would have liked it to be when it comes to properly laying the groundwork, to foreshadowing, to letting you know that the engineers are this type of character, the setup. It subverts though towards the end of the film, where it turns out humans are searching for their creator, and this creator didn't want the humans, so they were going to kill them. I think it could have been laid better where it hinted at this malevolence towards them, but it doesn't. Other good ones though, check out Game of Thrones, season 1 with Ned Stark. Blade Runner 2049, the main character Kay. He goes through a really, really cool journey. And also the classic Endgame with Thanos. Those are my few ones that I think did a really good job.
To me, a masterclass of subverting expectations is Bioshock. It has some very interesting themes about Ayn Rand's philosophy on objectivism and the twist at the end not only is a great version of giving your kid a toy plane, but it also works into theme. This idea that this thing that has been foreshadowed the whole game, would you kindly, would you kindly, would you kindly? And then at the end, you learn that this phrase is almost like a tag to force you to do whatever the person is asking you. It's a great reveal. It happens right on this switch when you think that the person that's been your friend this whole time is actually the villain, and it plays into theme about human choice and about how in a game you don't have human choice, only the paths that the developers have given to you. It's extremely engaging. It makes you rethink most of the game that you've played thus far and makes a great setup for the ending. I think one of the things that writers need to be careful about with subverting expectations is that you're not just doing it to show off this cool idea. It actually makes the story better. One of the examples I think of not doing it correctly is a movie called Now You See Me. I really like Now You See Me. I think 90% of that movie is really, really well formatted. The one thing that I don't like is throughout the movie, they play this idea that there is someone behind the scenes pulling all of the strings. And this FBI agent is trying to figure out who this person is pulling all of the strings. But then by the end, it reveals that the FBI agent is the one pulling the strings. Now, in the moment, you're like, wow. The problem is the way that you know that a subverted expectation or a twist doesn't work is when you start thinking of the story and the twist starts to make the story less cool or less interesting. There are some character arcs with Mark Ruffalo that no longer make sense. A lot of the story feels like it was kind of pointless because one of the entire POVs, their entire arc didn't matter because they were looking for themselves. It doesn't really make sense, and it's really only there to kind of jingle keys and be like, wow, look at this cool twist. But the more you think about it, the more it starts to unravel. That's what I think one of the difficulties with subverting expectations is. There is a reason that expectations are expected, is because those stories are proven to be good stories. So be careful when you subvert expectations.
So I'm really glad you said that, because I think when you're creating a story and you're writing, I think it's totally fair to not even go in looking to subvert. Write the story that you're feeling, and you can look back and say, are there twists available that I could slot in? And if I did, is this a good twist? Or is it going to undermine other parts of the story to where it then won't make any sense? So you'd mentioned Bioshock, and I think it is indeed a masterclass in subverting expectations. It does so on another level, like I've mentioned before, with the genre. Since it's a video game, of course you're going to do whatever the game tells you to do. And so on a meta level, it really works there too, because you're like, oh wow, I did play into the hand of the game. And the same thing happens in a movie called Funny Games, where it takes this meta approach to do a twist on the genre. So check out that movie too if you want to see this interesting dynamic and how it plays with that idea, what you expect, and also playing into you as a viewer. One of my favorite movies of all time is Inside Llewyn Davis. It's a phenomenal film by the Coen brothers. It's emotional, it's a wonderful journey, but I also really love it because you expect him as a struggling artist to make it to the big top one day. And he goes on this journey of trying to do that. He's struggling and he meets various characters and goes through various events. And you think he's like, okay, this is his moment. It's like 3/4 of the way through. Turns out he doesn't get it. It's actually heartbreaking, and you're a little frustrated because you're thinking, okay, is he going to have success? So the film actually ends with a cycle because it ends at the beginning. And the reason I love that so much is because it's begging you to ask this question: is there something more for this character? Is he gonna quit and just give up on his dream? And I think I just love those questions because it doesn't tell you, really does twist the knife for you about this is what success could look like, but it just doesn't happen. And it's really sad. All that to say is subverting is a very powerful tool. As actually Jesse said earlier, you do have to be careful with it. It's because it has such power, you can risk undermining your story.
Yes, absolutely. That's going to be my biggest message today, is write twists because they make your story better, and it's the story that you want to write, not just because it's a twist. One of the biggest genres right now are romances, and romances structurally usually are very familiar, so much so that a lot of Amazon pages have lists of exactly what happens in their stories. There's a reason that I think Brandon Sanderson has in his tool set the idea of promising your kid a toy car and you give them a toy car. that is not a worse story. It's just a choice that you are making. There is a study done by a psychologist in San Diego that spoiled stories before they watched a movie. It was seen almost across the board that audience members liked the story more when they knew the ending than when they didn't. This idea of having a crazy twist where they were dreaming the whole time or they were dead the whole time is not always an asset. All of that to say, when done correctly, it can make incredible stories. So do things for the right reasons, write the stories you want to write, not just because you want to outsmart your audience.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed our discussion on subverting expectations and liked our examples, whether good or bad. And just let us know if you agree or disagree with us. We'll see you next time, and take care.
And today, I'm not going to wave to subvert your expectations. Hey guys, if you really like this video, check the one down below. You might like that one too.
And if you really like what you see, click here to subscribe.